You're listening to Love and Libido with me, your host, Dr. Emily Jamia. The goal of this podcast is to educate and inspire. My hope is that you will learn tools to create connection and cultivate passion, both within yourself and in your relationships. Here's what's coming up on today's episode. Does sex ever make you feel a little guilty? Were you or your partner raised in a home, culture, or religious institution that instilled a sense of shame about expressing yourself sexually? Then you need to listen to this and the next 2 episodes. I thought I'd open season 2 with a bang by doing a 3-part miniseries on sex and faith. While faith isn't the focus of this whole podcast, it is something that impacts the way so many people feel about their sexuality. I see it in my office every day. Today, I am joined by a very sex-positive reverend who is here to teach you tools to break down shame no matter what spiritual or religious background you come from. We are going to talk about how using the discernment model can help clarify the feelings you have about your sexuality in a way that still aligns with your faith, or not. I sit down with more experts in the next 2 episodes to explore sex in Judaism and Islam. By the way, if you have a story about how religion affected the way you feel about your sexuality, I want to hear about it. As much as we learn from other experts, nothing makes us feel more connected than hearing from our peers. Visit loveandlibido.com to share your story. I'll compile them and air them on an upcoming episode. If you have a general sex or relationship question, you can submit that too by visiting loveandlibido.com. I just might answer it on an upcoming episode of the podcast. Buckle up because this is just the beginning of season 2. I have so much in store for you guys. I have interviews scheduled with more experts to talk about exciting new sex research. I'll shed light on how our youth is exploring sex these days. And I'll teach you how to introduce the idea of kink in your relationship. And there's so much more. So without further ado, let's get started on today's episode. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for joining me for today's very important discussion, which I know is going to touch so many people. I am joined today by Rev Bev, as she typically goes. And let me tell you a little bit about our guest. So Dr. Beverly Dale is an ordained clergy in the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ. The focus of her academic and professional life has been to explore the intersection of spirituality and sexuality. She is the chair and founder of the nonprofit Incarnation Institute for Sex and Faith, where she trains professional leadership in an inclusive, science-friendly, and sex-positive Christianity. Besides training sexual health and theologically trained professionals, she has focused on providing resources for those trapped in the purity culture. She recently co-authored Advancing Sexual Health for the Christian Client with sexologist Rachel Keller that combines the insights of science with a sex-positive Christian theology. She also has a 4-part webinar series titled Reading the Bible with Sex-Positive Eyes. And finally, she has a discussion guide for her YouTube series titled Sex is Good. So you have so much to share today, and you have done so much and contributed so much to the field. So thank you so much for joining me.
So you're very welcome.
As I mentioned in your bio, you are part of the Christian church, but I really want everybody listening to know that I think no matter what religion you were brought up in or what your belief system is, that I think a lot of what we're going to talk about will apply. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It's a cultural thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's in the air that we breathe, the water that we drink. So you can say, I have no faith, or maybe you were not raised in any kind of a religious tradition, and you are still impacted by the guilt and fear and shame that's in the culture.
I totally believe that. I live and practice in Houston, which is, I think, technically the most diverse city in the United States. And so I work with people from all different cultures, all different religious and spiritual backgrounds. And I would say that despite little nuances in what they were taught, the issues that I see that stem from some of the shame that they still carry because of their religious upbringing is the same. If you liked this video, drop me a like and subscribe below. Share with a friend who might find it interesting. You can also listen to this in podcast form anywhere podcasts are streamed by searching for Love and Libido with Dr. Emily Jamia. Finally, follow me across all social media channels at Dr. Emily Jamia for daily emotional and physical intimacy tips.